take the chance and roll the dice.
Just not in the first minute of the episode. So
it's good that that cutscene came at the end of last episode.
Exactly.
And we didn't open with that, because that would be bad for the young children watching YouTube unsupervised, which, if you're doing that, tell your parents they're doing it wrong.
Tell your parents that you've been watching YouTube unsupervised so that they can, I know.
And two random dudes on the internet are saying, hey, don't do that. We don't want you to get in trouble. We do appreciate your viewership. So anyway, Pathfinder and the 3-action system. It's basically saying, move, standard, swift action, screw it. You get 3 actions per turn. Done. All things are actions. But that said, certain things need to take more time so that the wizard isn't casting 3 magic missiles every single turn. So spell components. Each one is an action in order to cast a spell. So if a spell says verbal and somatic, that takes 2 actions to cast that spell when your turn comes up.
That seems silly, but also kind of makes some of the later meta magic feats actually useful, because now it's no longer, I need to track how much bat guano I'm carrying around. Instead, it's, I need the eschew materials feat to make my spell casting faster.
Well, it's silent spell now makes you, all you need to do is wiggle your fingers, which is faster than wiggling your fingers and saying Hooba Juba. If you're bound, then saying Hooba Juba is faster than coordinating that with a magic dance.
Dance
magic dance. Yes.
Thank you. Ow.
On the other side of things,
I did that last time when showing off this area to you, didn't I?
I think so. On the other side of things, for whatever reason, they have decided that certain things must take actions, like using a shield.
That seems silly.
If you are a sword and board archetype fighter, previously you got to attack as much as the next guy who didn't, coat himself in weaponry. And figure out a way to tell the GM, no, this is all natural weaponry. I get to use it all at once. I was born with these knives.
Pat, we've gone over this. You can't play Wolverine in my campaign.
I actually could if he was a rat instead of a Wolverine. But I'll get back to that probably now.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm not allowing you to take Wolverine in my campaign.
Nevertheless, if you're wielding a shield in Pathfinder 2, it takes an action to raise it, and then you get its AC bonus for until the next time your turn comes up. If you stop spending actions on it, it stops protecting you. You're not actually carrying it all useful like. You're constantly minding attention rather than the result of your training being, it's become automatic, which is the whole point of training. You want to train to stop thinking about things.
I want my muscle memory.
Exactly.
Oh, you can curse now, by the way.
Okay, well, whatever. The other thing is, shields are like the major casualty of second ed combat. If you're wielding a shield, expect it to break. The fighter has a reaction to... it might be... No, I'm sorry. The fighter has his own special reaction to just, I'm taking damage. I'm going to put my shield in the way and it takes damage instead of me.
Okay.
But there's also a general feat that anyone can take. If you're wielding a shield, then you can spend an action to prepare to receive damage, and any incoming damage you take is reduced by your shield's hardness, but both you and the shield take damage, which means that shield is going to die. It's very strange, and it feels super redundant. Like, there's one of them's called shield block, the other one is called reactive shield, a reactive block, or something like that. And since everything needs its own feat, they end up having to make super generic names for everything.
I thought part of the point of Pathfinder 2nd Edition was because they were running into the feat bloat problem that 3.5 had towards the end, where everything had to be named super generic because we have 1,000+ feats now. How do we name them all?
Well, now everything is a feat, which means for each class to have the ability to do something and have this like class feature grow, it has to have the initial 1 or 2 feats and then feat support throughout 20 levels, which means at minimum 7 to 14 feats for this character to take so that there's some options available in character building. So, yeah, they start out with feat bloat. There's so many feats. And some of them do identical things, but kind of sort of different because the rogue is different from the ranger, is different from the bard, is different from the fighter, which means one is going to end up better than the other, which means if you're playing that class, it's a trap, unless you meant to play this class in which that one's the trap. It's very overloaded. There's a lot of material to read and take in before you make a character. And heaven help you if you're playing not a spellcaster, because, spellcasters get fewer daily spells, but they get encounter-based magic, they get cantrips, and their non-daily spells still do scale with character level and grow in power. If you're a martial character, you're playing a weapon wielded by some scrub. Because the weapon is where your damage comes from. Because wizards, their big thing was they got to throw a whole bunch of dice around. And previously, fighters were just, I attack things and then I roll my single weapon die.
Pat.
Now, well, hang on, I'm not done yet. Magic weapons are where the fighter's dice come in. Because a longsword deals 1d8 points of damage. A longsword +1 adds +1 die of damage. So that's 2d8. And so on and so forth. So you have to keep swapping out or improving weapons, adding on those numerical bonuses to keep your damage dice relevant to the challenges you face. But the wizards get that just kind of automatically.
But that's still kind of a cool way to do magic weapons now, because
it is.
But Pat,
4th Ed had one mechanic that Pathfinder does not include, probably because it was just kind of a throwaway thing. Mm-hmm. In 4th Ed, wizards and spellcasters had the option of using implements to improve their spellcasting powers.
Okay.
If that were made...
What is an implement?
An implement is like a staff, or a prism, or an orb, or a wand.
You could have a magic thing. Yeah,
if you had a magic wand or a magic staff, then it would improve certain aspects of your spellcasting powers. Or a holy symbol, or whatever. If Pathfinder 2 had taken that, okay, you've got a +1 magic staff. That improves your cantrips and spellcasting in the following ways. Then they wouldn't have the large discrepancy between wizards and fighters, but they kept that in. Granted, in D&D 4th Ed, it was entirely optional. No wizard was required to have a staff or a wand, and if you disarmed him, then they'd be powerless. Just like the fighter, you took away his sword. For some reason, no fighter trained in swordplay is ever going to be able to throw a punch without completely opening him up to ruin and woe.
Well, that's because punching is for monks. Monks do the punchy.
Monks can just be better at punching, though. Without removing the ability for...
Do the punchy.
And that's the other problem. In order for one class to be good at something, everyone else must be unable to do it. And Pathfinder 2 is now rife with that. You know how attacks of opportunity used to work?
Where they just happen if the conditions were met for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a fighter power now.
It's only fighters.
Fighters get to do it. Only fighters. Not the ranger, only fighters. But there's a fighter archetype for archery. But attack of opportunity only works with melee weapons.
Well, of course, because
So if
you can't opportunity attack someone over there.
Of course not. It seems very disorganized. I'm not a fan of it. I never really was, and I kind of saw these things as issues in the playtest, and I'm disappointed that nobody caught them, or that they were caught and nobody did anything about it.
I mean, there's the thing, though. We own enough original Pathfinder books and stuff that we can just continue that forever, especially considering how much of the Pathfinder campaign material we own as well.
Right, and
so
I think we have played enough games that the two of us and any other such long in the tooth RPG players can take any material and go, all right, I've got the story beats of what's happening. Mm-hmm. I'm going to run it in this system and just ignore any rules text they don't like. But that's not helping anybody new. And that's the whole reason that Paizo is making a new edition, is they need to bring in new players. But I don't see... I don't anticipate Pathfinder 2 engendering too many new players. I think existing players who are all like, ooh, I really like this direction, are going to take second edition, and not a whole lot of new blood is going to come in because of Pathfinder 2.
It's probably, at least in our group, essentially what I could see happening is taking the combat action economy, swiping that, and that's about it.
Yeah, and that was already released in Pathfinder Unchained.
With some other different weird things. I know that, like, if you're playing Pathfinder First Edition, buy the Unchained book if you want any of your players to play the martial classes, because... Yeah. Where am I? Oh, well, here.
And really...
just buy Dreamscarred... buy Dreamscarred Press's... what do they call it?
Path of War. Dreamscarred Press and Path of War. If you want... If anybody wants to play a martial class, just hand them that. Because it's class features that are... Oh, here, you're good in a fight. Now all of the rest of your abilities can be based on anything else you want. Now, because power creep is always a thing in any RPG ever,
it has power creep.
Oh God, yes. The mere existence of these Path of War books, which are heavily inspired by the Tome of Battle from the final heyday of D&D 3.5,
which is in itself
kind of a playtest of 4th ed mechanics of what's an encounter.
Well, inspired by, like old kung fu movies and things like that.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, yes, but in terms of, oh look, he's the fighty guy. He can do stuff.
He can do cool stuff because he has honed his body as a living weapon. That sort of thing.
I need to
but yeah,
that one.
Because this exists, people will expect to be able to take feats that make these features better, because, well, you can do that with everything else that's a feature, class feature or otherwise. So yeah, the existence of a new mechanics system in D&D is going to lead to power creep, because stuff's just going to get better. But you don't have to. There's no requirement to do so, and the mere existence of maneuvers for executing combat moves to do stuff in a fight means by having them, you're already pretty good at fighting. You can dedicate other aspects of your character to rounding out the character if the game incorporates other aspects of adventuring, like negotiation, dealing with patrons, or seeking out information. You can be good at all that other stuff independent of your fighting capability. Because as adventurers, it's kind of expected that you're gonna get into a dust-up and fight somebody. So you may as well be good at it, and if you need to be good at other stuff, here's this other system for non-fighty things.
Yep. But I think we have beaten that horse until.
Oh my God! Yes.
So yeah, we'll.
That is a
very
red
dead
horse-shaped blood stain on the ground.
Okay, we'll join you next time. I'm making my way over to get our.
Did I really
news.
rant an entire episode about that and not acknowledge anything that you've been doing in the entire game?
It let me just concentrate on what I was doing because that was 3 or 4 boss fights in a row. That if I died on any one of them, I'd have to do them all again.
Oh my God. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Dash.
All right. So we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Like I'll never die. I lose my head in the starry skies. Can't chain me down. I feel